Augustus could take control of the wasteland. I had nothing but questions that couldn't be answered until I was let out of my cabin. For now, Augustus thought victory was as simple as attacking the voice and defeating it in open battle. We hadn't been able to tell him everything else we'd learned, including my own role. The only way to defeat Askala was infecting her with the Alakai version of the xenovirus, which was something only I could do. According to the Wanderer, it would cost me my life. He had also said that we must unite. Maybe it was best to follow his advice, regardless of what anyone thought about it. Allying the Reapers, the Empire, and the Angels would be the most difficult thing we'd done. And none of us had any idea how to do it. Chapter 1. "Did you hear that?" Julian asked. Makara opened her eyes. "Hear what?" The recon sat alone in a mountain valley coated with xenofungus, sheltered within a stand of xenotrees. The trees' spindly limbs fell in a silvery cascade, obscuring the recon from view. The fungus itself glowed in the night, milky and pink. Frail alien trees spiraled from the xenofungal bed, their hanging limbs and tufts and fronds spilling like silk onto the ground. Tall pink tubes rose from the fungus, their bell openings dripping slime that collected in sticky, shining pools. Alien chirps, clicks, and shrieks sounded from distant hills. "Is there something out there?" Samuel asked. "What do you think it was, Julian?" Makara asked. "Hard to believe," Julian said, "but it sounded like a spaceship." Outside, the xenolife chirped on. "No, it couldn't have been that," Michael said, now awake. "You saw Aeneas fall." Julian paused. "Maybe it was nothing. I was just sleeping and thought I heard it. I must have dreamt it." Satisfied at this answer, everyone closed their eyes once again. Bunker 84 was far, but Samuel had estimated that the group could get there in a few more days. For some reason, Julian doubted that assessment. They'd be lucky to get there at all. 3 days after Samuel's estimate, and they had crossed over into Nevada. They had expected to find desert, but instead found more blight. It had expanded farther than any of them would have thought. Julian closed his eyes. Even though he was exhausted, he couldn't fall asleep. It was Samuel's turn to be on watch, as Julian had done it last night, which meant sleep should have been coming easy. But he couldn't stop thinking about the others, Alex, Anna, Ashton, all dead, crashed into the mountainside. They had driven by the wreckage of Aeneas first thing, before Gilgamesh itself had become a burning ruin. Aeneas's hull was so disintegrated that it was impossible to explore the ship on foot, much less check for empty escape pods. They had searched a full day throughout the valley, but it became clear that they couldn't search forever. It was far too cold and dangerous to go into the mountains out of the blighted valley. Besides, a pod could have landed anywhere, and the recon had very little in the way of emergency supplies they couldn't stretch on a fruitless search. Already they were rationing, eating half as much as they should. In the end, Samuel had made the final decision. They were to return to Bunker 84 and try to save everyone there without spaceships. Assuming they actually made it to the bunker, this would involve a journey south over mountains in the dead of winter. Assuming anyone made it, Samuel planned to offer the New Angels services to Augustus and Karen Black. Not a satisfying ending, but the only ending nonetheless. During their journey southwest, the Great Blight had been surprisingly empty of threats. Makara guessed that Askala was gathering her swarm in one place for one final attack, which had emptied much of the Great Blight. Perhaps they hadn't run into any crawlers, but that didn't mean they wouldn't at some point. If, against all odds, they reached Bunker 84, then what? The New Angels would only freeze and starve in the mountains on the perilous journey south.